I don't know if that makes a difference.
Good evening and welcome to this July 9th City Council meeting and public forum, and wonderful to see a nice full room here, so I'm eager to hear what you all have to say. In honor of July 4th, we will say the Pledge of Allegiance today and hear the Declaration of Independence, and we are honored today to have the 4 presidents of our sister cities, Candace Shorak of our Eugene Jinju sister city, Harvey Blostain of our Eugene Kathmandu sister city, Galina Groza of our Eugene Irkutsk sister city, and Janelle Saavedra of our Eugene Kakagawa sister city. These are all the sister city committee presidents. Would you all please rise and come forward?
Say the pledge
And
first.
we're going to do the pledge first. So if you want to come on forward, and we'll say the pledge first, and then you can do your reading. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Absolutely.
Okay, and now, the Declaration of Independence.
This is totally awesome.
In Congress, July 4th, 1776, the unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. And accordingly, all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world.
He has refused his assent to laws the most wholesome and necessary for the public good. He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance unless suspended in their operation until his assent should be obtained, and when so suspended, has utterly neglected to attend to them. He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of large districts of people, unless those people would relinquish the rights of representation in the legislature, a right inestimable to them and formidable to tyrants only. He has called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository of their public records for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures. He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with manly firmness his invasions on the rights of the people. He has refused for a long time after such dissolutions to cause others to be elected, whereby the legislative powers, incapable of annihilation, have returned to the people at large for their exercise, the state remaining in the meantime exposed to all the dangers of invasion from without and convulsions within. He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states, for that purpose obstructing the laws for naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migrations hither, and raising the conditions of new appropriations of lands. He has obstructed the administration of justice by refusing his assent to laws for establishing judiciary powers. He has made judges dependent on his will alone for the tenure of their offices and the amount and payment of their salaries. He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance. He has kept among us in times of peace standing armies without the consent of our legislatures. He has affected to render the military independent of and superior to the civil power. And he has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to their acts of pretended legislation.
For quartering large bodies of armed troops among us, for protecting them by a mock trial from punishment for any murders which they should commit on the inhabitants of these states, for cutting off our trade with all parts of the world, for imposing taxes on us without our consent, for depriving us in many cases of the benefit of trial by jury, for transporting us beyond seas to be tried for pretended offenses, for abolishing the free system of English laws in a neighboring province, establishing herein an arbitrary government and enlarging its boundaries so as to render it at once an example and fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rule into these colonies, for taking away our charters, abolishing our most valuable laws, and altering fundamentally the forms of our government, for suspending our own legislatures and declaring themselves invested with power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever. He has abdicated government here by declaring us out of his protection and waging war against us. He has plundered our seas, ravaged our coasts, burnt our towns, and destroyed the lives of people. He is at this time transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete the works of death, desolation, and tyranny, already begun with circumstances of cruelty and perfidy, scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous ages, and totally unworthy the head of a civilized nation. He has constrained our fellow citizens taken captive on the high seas to bear arms against their country, to become the executioners of their friends and brethren, or to fall themselves by their hands. He has excited domestic insurrections among us and has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers the merciless Indian savages whose known rule of warfare is an undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions.
In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people. Nor have we been wanting in attentions to our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time of attempts by their legislature to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them of the circumstances of our immigration and settlement here. We have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity, and we have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations, which would inevitably interrupt our connections and correspondence. They too have been deaf to the voice of justice and of consanguinity. We must, therefore, acquiesce in the necessity which denounces our separation and hold them, as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war, in peace, friends. We, therefore, the representatives of the United States of America, in General Congress assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do, in the name and by authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are, and of right ought to be, free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that as free and independent states, they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and to do all other acts and things which independent states may of right do. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
Wow, thank you very much. Thank you. That was excellent, and I appreciate the work all of you do to keep our sister city programs going, and thank you so much for doing that reading for us today. Okay, we are now ready to go into the public forum, and I'll just remind everybody of the rules. The public forum is an opportunity for individuals to speak to the City Council on any city-related issues except for those items which have already been heard by a hearings official or are on tonight's agenda as a public hearing. Each person will have 3 minutes to speak. When you come to the podium, please give your name, city of residence, and for Eugene residents, your ward if known. The timer and lights indicate the time you have to speak. The red light indicates the end of 3 minutes. And we have 20 speakers today. So first up, and just a reminder that I'll call 2 names and the second person can sit in the warm-up seat. And so then it goes more swiftly.
On deck.
On deck, exactly. First up is John Brown, followed by the Raging Grannies.
Good evening, Mayor Vinnis and members of the council. John Brown, Ward 5. For the record, my comments this evening don't represent any position from any board or commission I hold a position on. How could I not stay to watch the Raging Grannies and Dricks? I mean, this is going to be great. You know why I'm here. I've been to this podium longer than Councilor Taylor's been on council, and it's the same topic. And I've sent you some pictures this evening, and a couple things. I was trying to rather than be, controversial or adversarial, I'd like to give you a solution or a couple things to think about. The first picture I gave you, the single one, is what goes on out in this street more times than not. And that's that the people take these leaf blowers, city staff, county staff, and everybody else, and they blow all that garbage into the street every morning. Cigarette butts, all the garbage. Look at the picture. And just sits there. And then it washes into the storm drain and washes into the river. And why? If I throw something out of my car window, it's littering. Why are we allowing people in this town to take their leaf blowers and blow all their garbage into our streets, and then we have to pick it up? And we don't pick it up. It's going into the river. So just something to think about. The second one is the pictures of the river camps. And, some are historical, the ones with the needles and the one at the I-5 bridge and things like that, all the the backpacks you'll see there. And this isn't about homelessness or anything else. I'm just thinking about the concept. I heard you this evening talk about how important the riverfront was in your EWEB project. We don't let people develop within 100 feet of the water. Why? Because you want to protect it. You want to protect the riparian area. I just went down the river Tuesday, 25 camps I counted, 100% of them were on public property, not one on private property. Why? So if you had a group of people to site at a place that were unhoused, and you had the City Hall site, the fairgrounds south of the Amazon, the Autzen parking lot, or the parkland up by LCC that's undeveloped, or the riverfront area, what would be the last place you would put these people? The last place? And why? And where's a lot of the unhoused people? And it's, and I'm not advocating moving them out. I've never moved anybody out from a camp. I've cleaned a ton of them up, and I wish I didn't have to do this. But you saw recently, we're winning, and on the Mackenzie, it's working. And so I would really like to see, I know we passed a levy, and we're going to have some money to patrol it and to hopefully prevent it, but please don't let any more degradation of our river go, because this stuff's getting in the waterways, and it's not, you can't clean it all up. So in closing, I'll say I apologize. I'm not going to stay for your comments. I have a prior engagement this evening. I'm going to stay at least for the next one. So thank you very much, and I appreciate you listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. The next up are the Raging Grannies, and they will be followed by David Piccioni.
Poor David.
We are the Raging Grannies, and we come from many different wards. Someone once said that continuing to do the same thing and expecting a different outcome is a definition of insanity. We aren't sure what the City Council meant by reducing fossil fuel use in its 2015 Climate Recovery Ordinance, but if you really intend to make a reduction, you have to stop supplying an infrastructure like the 30th Avenue pipeline that encourages the same old use of fossil fuels. So we leave you with these words.
How do you spell natural, spell natural, spell natural? How do you spell natural? F-R-A-C-K-E-D. 'Cause fracked gas is natural gas, and natural gas is fracked gas, and fracking is a problem that we need to end. Each time we build a pipeline, a big one, a small one, we waste support and energy that can't be renewed. So you call it natural, but that doesn't fool us, 'cause natural gas is fracked gas that we need to end. Instead, consider solar, or hydro, or wind power. Keep making easy choices and nothing will change. So fire up your big brains, 'cause that's how we make change. 'Cause fracking is a problem that we need to end.
That was great. Thank you. David Piccioni, followed by Laura Ohanian.
Hi, my name's David Ivan Piccioni. I just want to support Councilor Taylor's thing about the auditor, and I want to make a comment about the buildings that you're considering building on the riverfront. I think that what I would like is that part of the buildings are available for people with pets, and also a section of it for people that want to smoke, so they don't have to go downstairs and be out in the rain smoking. I know smoking is bad. I'm not advocating smoking, but Everybody's got rights to choose. And yeah, there's a lot of lonely people. I'm one of them. There's a lot of lonely people, and animals make us feel whole. And I think that having apartments where dogs and cats and other, maybe a potbelly pig or something like that, could be kept would really enrich the environment and make a lot of people very happy.
Thank you. Laura Ohanian, followed by Drix Eugene. That's a comma, Drix, comma, Eugene. Got it. Of Eugene. Eugene Drix. Got it.
Last
Okay,
name first.
excuse me, Laura Ohanian, take it away.
Hi, Laura Ohanian. I'm in Emily Semple's ward in Eugene. Boy, the reading at the beginning of the meeting was so timely. I want to thank Betty for putting the proposal for an independent elected auditor on the ballot in November. I'd like to encourage everybody to consider doing that. I unfortunately have no expectations that that will happen with this city council, but maybe if we would have had an auditor, we wouldn't be in this building tonight. Maybe we would be in our city hall somewhere instead of paying rent for years to be someplace else. I think the council was really disingenuous in this past year with this whole issue, and I think a lot of people in Eugene could see through that behavior, and it does not create trust in local government. It creates cynicism, and people respond in different ways to that. Some drop out, some get really angry, and some drink more. I mean, it would be really nice if we could actually help our communities and not help big business and real estate and construction companies and cutting down forests around the edge of town for more legal housing subdivisions. They may be legal, but thanks.
Thank you. Drix, followed by Mark Cosby.
Hey, Eugene. My name is Drix. I live in an attic above High Street, so I like to say I'm high above high. Yes, and our wonderful High Street is the only street I know of that you just say the name of and people start grinning. You know, you don't, but it's been associated with drug highs, but actually high is just a perspective. It gives you a better perspective of things. So it's actually a good word. We even say hi to each other when we meet. So it's around us all along. None of that's in my 3 minutes, but they're half gone anyway. I'd like to acknowledge somebody who is a dear friend and a really inspiration to at least two of us. Mr. Charlie Henry, he left this dimension and has moved on. Powerful man, wonderful man, and he knew my dad. I mean, here I am so old, but he knew my dad, and it goes back. He is a great man, and I would like to acknowledge him somehow, and that's another night to bring that to you. But back in the time, Harry Belafonte, a famous musician in the past, was coming to Eugene, and the only venue we had was South Eugene High School, and it just embarrassed the hell out of Charlie Henry, and so he helped guide the campaign to get us a health center and to give us some integrity and a world-class place to be world-class. And I'm totally off subject and out of time, but whatever we build, you guys, we're an incredible city. We are a piece of this nation, of this world. I think our new country is called Earth, and this is it, and I hope it reflects that. I hope it has places to commune and talk and to think. Here's some gifts for you. In fact, now I'll read my note with 90 seconds to go. I have a tool for everyone, I have a gift for everyone, and I have some spare change. How's that topical? All right, the tool. The tool is, oh, my pack. It's over here. It's a gift, it's a tool of security. And all you need to do, it's so simple. I live in the U District, 1 minute to go. Okay. I live in the U District, and we have all kinds of crime and street events and all that happen. And here it is. This one works great. It's a black towel. Everyone has black towels, and you can find them all over, or a T-shirt or anything black, but it's called the Cloak of Invisibility. And you keep it in your car. And when you get out of your car and you have something, you throw it on there, and you go in your house, and for anyone who looks through the window, there's nothing there. So that's my tool for everyone. My gift is a gift of time. Why do I come here? Oh, 30 seconds, that's why. I came here because Eugene was decent, great, inspiring, and life-changing to me in 1970s. That's not you guys, but it's you guys, and it's you guys. And I'm here because this town was so great and inspiring to me, and I realized that the only difference between us now and us then is time, and time is the fourth dimension. So I want to include in this momentous moment that just put that formula in, everything you're thinking of, and things should line up. The fourth dimension lives in Eugene. Thank you. Did that make sense, kind of? All right, thanks.
Next up, Mark Cosby, followed by David Monk.
Hello, I'm Mark Cosby. I've been a resident of out in Marcola since 1962. Eugene is our county seat. It was 4 years ago, July 2014, that I addressed the city council over the shutting down of the public restrooms. And I want you guys to know, and I hope you were really listening to the meaning of the words that were read at the beginning of this meeting. But in 2013, all the rage on the news was about the sanitary conditions in downtown Eugene. In July 2014, they shut down the restrooms, and this place became a cesspool. And I went out and gathered signatures, and I came here and I addressed my grievances, and for that, the city council contacted the company I was contracted with to have me fired. Think about that. Over the next year, several things ensued, and I filed a federal lawsuit against the city of Eugene. I would have hoped that I would have never had to do that. The deal is, they ended up with 2 federal lawsuits. The second one is still ongoing over what they did to 25 employees, disabled employees. They wanted me fired so bad, they took a contract away from the company. And I don't know how much I can talk about that because that case is still ongoing. So there was a lawsuit. It was settled out of court back in March. I don't take the use of the word tyrant lightly. I'm offended. The city judge or city attorney came over from our arbitration and he laughed. He says, "How'd you like being put on a terrorist watch list and being followed around by the city of Eugene?" I said, "It doesn't bother me. I'm pro-law enforcement, 100%. Lieutenant Klinko would not put me on a watch list as the administration wanted. They went over his head and forced your municipal police department to put me on a watch list." You know, I think there's been an egregious failure here. Hasn't served the homeless people. Right now, over 1,400 of them are being pushed out of the city by the same law enforcement, and they're being shoved into your communities. You guys want to talk about sanctuary city? Let me just end in saying, if you're not able to take care of your own social issues, Quit being a foster parent for others because you're not qualified.
Thank you. Thank you. Next up, David Monk. David Monk, and followed by Judy Morse.
David Monk, Ward 2 resident. In the most humble terms, I would ask that you all reach back to that time when you chose to run for city council. What inspired you to do that? And hold on to that when you have this discussion with Councilor Taylor about her motion. I think you've probably all seen what chief petitioners have recommended as amendments to that language. We think we've made an honest effort at accommodating the concerns that you all had, that citizens for accountability had. You know, the salary, I think, was probably the single most difficult thing for a lot of voters. And you can see it's been reduced drastically. There's a Citizens Advisory Committee. There's a residency requirement for this individual, should you choose to put it on the ballot. I think if you truly do want an auditor, and most of you, virtually all of you, said you did, I think you recognize that most voters believe that an elected auditor is the appropriate model for this city. We did our best to pass that measure. We obviously failed. I think you can fulfill what many people in this community for many years have wanted to see happen, and that's for someone who is independent of you and the city manager to represent the citizens in financial and performance issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Judy Morse, followed by Jim New.
Thank you very much. My issue is that I hope that with this planning in the River Park area, we will, as citizens, be kept informed and have say in what is going on, and maybe going slow is the best policy for that. It seems like there's a lot of different issues and people are not too sure about it. And I hope that by doing this, and the money that goes there will not be taken away from the bus issue and having our LTD going places where it would be beneficial to a lot of people, and a lot of people in the Eugene area is they are wanting to go and have a bus that goes to Florence. And I am trying very hard to get that done. So I hope that they will spend a little money on our bus system. I also, the last issue I have and concern is that we have a situation where a lot of kids, young adults, are congregated constantly every day from morning, noon, and night in the corners of our bus station and across from the library. And it prevents us as grown-up adults. I have a physical problem. I don't walk too well. I have many times they have come close to knocking me over and making me fall. And I don't like the feeling of that. And it kind of worries me. And I'm hoping maybe someone will think about this and put in a ordinance, a loitering ordinance, that this would give the police power in order to do something. Right at the moment, they have very little power to change that. And I am not the only one. There are so many people. They stand in the way of where you push for the button for the traffic signal. They're all on the sidewalk, they sit on the sidewalk, and it's a very nuisance. So please, maybe think about doing a loitering ordinance so we won't have to do that. And thank you very much for letting me speak.
Thank you. Jim New, followed by Lucy Lynch.
Mayor and Council, my name is Jim New. I live in Ward 7. Northwest Gas Company's low carbon pathway has a commendable carbon savings goal of 30% reduction by 2035. Last week, Northwest Gas and 2 other private utility companies filed legal challenges to Washington State's limit on global warming pollution, seeking to invalidate new state rules. They sued when being required to reduce by 1.7%. This challenge raises questions into just how sincere Northwest Gas would be as a large lever shareholder in Eugene's climate action plan. The cap requires 7.6 reduction in greenhouse gas emissions per year and 50% reductions of fossil fuels in the community by 2035. Yet, Northwest Gas customers account for 8 times more greenhouse gas emissions than do eWeb electricity customers, even though there are half as many Northwest Gas customers as eWeb customers. Quite frankly, I'm not sure how Eugene can meet the goals of the Climate Recovery Ordinance without restricting new fossil fuel infrastructure of Northwest Gas in new construction. I urge Council to take the Sustainability Commission's recommendations into consideration. And just a short note about the downtown riverfront redevelopment project. I'd like to thank the city councilors that spoke at the work session earlier to increase the amount of green space within the project. $30 million is a hefty price tag for this project, but it's worthwhile. And Mike did not put me up to this, but the sale of the City Hall lot would offset these project costs. Using the eWeb building as a City Hall is a great example of repurposing city property.
Thank you. Lucy Lynch, followed by Adam Fishman.
My name is Lucy Lynch, and I live in Ward 3. I was born on the 4th of July, and I'm extremely fond of the Declaration of Independence, particularly that part about the consent of the governed. I'm here to talk about independence. I was part of the campaign for the independent city auditor, and I want to thank Betty for keeping this issue in front of the council. I want to thank Betty and Emily both for standing up for this issue from January forward. They both said several times that the council had the ability to remedy what were perceived to be deficiencies in the original proposal. The language before you now, I believe, remedies those perceived deficiencies. And I encourage you to take the spirit of what the voters have said, which is that they would prefer an independent auditor, not an appointed auditor, not a part-time selected financial person who advises you, but an independent auditor. Thank you, Betty, and I hope you all pay attention. Thanks.
Thank you. Adam Fishman, followed by Linda Heil.
Thank you, Council. Adam Fishman, Ward 1. I've been a Eugene citizen for 28 years, maybe 30 years. I think the last time I spoke to council publicly was to get council to build the stage at the amphitheater, and we did that, so it's a good thing. So I've been out of town. I certainly voted in the primary, but I'm here to just remind council of the importance of your duties as a councilor is to ensure the city, to ensure the public trust. As well as to hiring, reviewing, and possibly firing our city manager. Those are key components of responsibility as council. But I thank you for your service because there's a lot of work you have to do. So, a couple of key points. A majority of the citizens, as well as council, supported a measure to be on the ballot for a city auditor. And it was a great survey. Survey says elected auditor is preferred. There was much public debate, discussion about the benefits of each type of auditor. We now know the results. It seems that an amended charter amendment has been on council's agenda for almost 20 years. Let's continue. The results clearly demonstrate an elected auditor. We now have Councilor Taylor's proposal for another charter amendment. Let's support it. Let's do our duties. Let's ensure the public trust. Make sure that you vote to continue this. It will help you and any counselor, even if you do not think there are benefits, but there will be. They include reviewing our city manager's performance. Those are critical. Please consider fighting for a city auditor and ensuring the public trust. Thank you for your service.
Thank you. Linda Heil, followed by Robin Bloomgarden.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. I'm Linda Heil, and I live in Ward 2, Betty's Ward. 350 Eugene applauds the Sustainability Commission's recommendation that the city research possibilities for regulating natural gas use in Eugene. I believe this was going to be announced to you guys tonight, but I, in fact, am beginning to doubt that that's going to happen tonight. It may come to you later in an email. Most cities committing to 100% renewable energy have local utilities that must phase out fossil fuels to produce electricity. We are fortunate to be ahead of this curve because EWEB's energy sourcing is about 89% renewables already. Natural gas and fuels for transportation are the fossil fuel culprits for Eugene. Natural gas produced about 1/4 of all greenhouse gas emissions in Eugene in 2015. These data have two incontrovertible implications. First, expansion of gas to new users must stop, and second, current gas users must switch to electricity for their power. It is unlikely that Northwest Natural will voluntarily reduce their business and thus their emissions. As you heard, in 2016, the company sued the state of Washington because of a state rule requiring gradual reductions in emissions. Reaching Eugene's 2030 CRO goal will probably mean greenhouse gas reductions of over 8% annually. Admittedly, this does not all come from Northwest Natural, but as one of the large lever stakeholders for the cap, their contribution must be substantial. Northwest Natural's low-carbon proposals like methane capture systems and alternative fuels for heavy vehicles just will not produce reductions of the required scale. Residents as well as businesses will be affected. I'm a retired nurse practitioner. I worked for the San Francisco Health Department in the sexually transmitted diseases and HIV prevention program for over 20 years. I appreciate how difficult it can be for people to make behavior changes, even when continuing with the same behaviors entail serious consequences. This will be a lifestyle change that many people will find very hard to swallow, and it's expensive to buy and install new appliances. So an effective public education campaign and a sufficient period of planning and preparation will be necessary, along with hefty financial assistance programs, particularly for low-income households. If a just transition is desired, then Northwest Natural should shoulder some of the cost, since their marketing of gas as clean energy in Eugene is close to fraudulent given the facts. There's just no way around this reality. Natural gas use in Eugene must be quickly and steeply scaled back. As recommended by the Sustainability Commission, please direct the city manager to research legal and binding methods to regulate natural gas in Eugene. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Robin Bloomgarden, followed by Eric Jackson.
Robin Bloomgarden, Chris Pryor's ward. Anybody? Councilor Taylor has proposed to refer a revised version of Measure 2283, the elected independent auditor, for the November ballot. She has worked with the group who put it onto the ballot to directly address the perceived faults that were relentlessly trumpeted by the competing 2287 appointed auditor measure proponents, including a majority of city councilors. Betty's measure lowers the auditor's base salary and lowers the 3 deputy auditors' salaries. She calls for an 8-member citizen advisory committee with 4 appointed by council and 4 appointed by the auditor, with a prohibition on conflict of interest. An excellent idea. And the revised measure now requires the elected auditor to live in Lane County. Rob Zako and Chris Wigg et al. Are already calling any candidates who may come from somewhere else carpetbaggers. Are they kidding? What if a candidate is Muslim? Would that be a problem too? What about our newest carpetbagger, Police Chief Skinner? Zako et al. Are still harping about the auditor's office budget, but now they are concerned that there may not be enough money to support what is needed to do the job, and that council may waffle about how much is sufficient. Measure 2283 had a clear and objective standard, which the opposition didn't seem to care for the first time around. They want to tie the auditor's salary to compensation for other auditors, such as the paltry amount offered by Lane County for auditors they can't keep more than a year or so. Lane County had no auditor for many years due, in my opinion, to oppressive oversight and direction by citizen committees and small salaries with almost no office staff. Does that sound like a winning formula to you? They gripe about splitting the 8 appointed Citizen Advisory Committee members between the auditor and council. A Citizen Advisory Committee was proposed by them in their own measure. What they really want to do is to direct what is audited and what is not audited, and that is very possible if the committee is composed entirely by council appointees. I'm sure the auditor would really appreciate some extra expertise on that committee anyway. Zako says the revised measure shows only cosmetic changes and does not represent the concerns that he heard about the original measure, 2283. What I see in the revised measure is an honest attempt to address the issues between the 2 different measures. Thank you.
Thank you. Eric Jackson, followed by Lisa Reyes.
Council, how are you today? Eric Jackson, 754 Washington. You? I wasn't sure. I couldn't see on the map clearly. Okay, good for that. So what district is that? 7? Cool. I have sent Emily a copy of what I have written in regards to the no trespass letters for Eugene downtown. I got a no trespass ticket. I also sent your Facebook page a video on YouTube of me getting the no trespass ticket. Don't know if anybody saw that. I told you 2 weeks ago. I've also included links on the live one that I sent to Emily, because she's the only email address I had. The ACLU in Michigan. And this took me 1 day of research to find for my defense of my case, for me. They've suppressed evidence for weapons on felons and distribution of drugs, both in the local court, the appellate court, and the United States Federal District Court, because it violates the Fourth Amendment, and it's a joke. It's not probable cause. It can't be probable cause. If you watch the video, you'll see how abused it is. Sometimes things are right to do. Other times, blanket movements are just more discrimination. For me to be able to find this in 1 day, and the board of educated people, the city attorney, the city manager, the police department, whoever backs them up, to say, you know, this can probably be a challenged thing if somebody had money to actually do it, or the skill, or the knowledge, or the brains. Guess what? Officer Fritz picked on the wrong guy, because I was waiting for that ticket. I didn't expect me to get it, because I don't really do anything wrong. But I certainly have a bunch of people that I was fighting for that got that ticket. until I had the ticket and had to research it for myself, I didn't find any of this. But to use a letter of trespass as a blanket statement of probable cause for an officer to do whatever he wants, violating your Fourth Amendment seizure rights. Seizure of me. Seizure of a wallet to get my name. Seizure of if I had drugs on me, a gun on me, anything of the sort. How much of a waste of the city's time is it for that to be kicked out in all the courts if somebody actually asks? But you pick on the homeless people. They don't fight. You all have a copy of the letter.
Thank you.
I gave it to the city manager.
Lisa Reyes, followed by Bill Armstrong.
Hi, Council. My name is Lisa Reyes, and I live in Ward 7. And I'm a 57-year-old woman who's single, and I've been a resident of Lane County for about 30 years. The city's recent policy change over towing RVs has left over 19 families displaced and homeless, I mean, within a short period of time. So it really is adding to the homeless instead of helping it, the problem. I had just purchased an RV. It costed me all I had, and it was worth it to never be homeless again. There was no warning whatsoever. No tow tag, no nothing. And when I returned back to it, it was just gone, along with everything that I owned that was inside it. I felt like I had been raped, my civil rights taken, no, stolen from me. By who? Those who are sworn to protect and serve the citizens of this city. I fell in love with Eugene 30 years ago, and now I'm ashamed to call Eugene my home after this incident. So my home is gone, and my health issues have doubled for me due to lack of sleep and no way to cook properly. My feet and ankles swell up. I am terminal. I am dying. And there's nothing they can do, but, you know, I just wanted to say something about it. I thought the laws were made for everyone, not just for a select few. And if I was to steal something from somebody, I'd be held accountable for my actions. And to me, I feel that the city and the police should be held accountable for their actions as well. How can you respect a city who doesn't respect you as a human being? I was never given a warning, a case number, or a police report either. I hope that the people of Eugene will be able to figure out how to get the city back and put it the way it was 30 years ago. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill Armstrong, followed by Kimberly Gladen.
Good evening. My name's Bill Armstrong, and I live in Ward 1 near 8th and Madison. Last week, my neighborhood was besieged by criminals, and the police couldn't help. A group that varied between 4 and 15 individuals took up residence on the curb strip of my street and proceeded to engage in what appeared to be drug dealing and prostitution. Lookouts were assigned with cell phones at the end of the block, while 3 or 4 members mixed white powder on an open blanket right on the sidewalk. Customers showed up, exchanges were open and blatant. Meanwhile, a series of men crawled into a structure built out of shopping carts and tarps where a woman waited. This was happening on 8th Street in a residential area. On the second day at 8 p.m., I called the police on the non-emergency number. I was told that they were busy and would send an officer as soon as they could. No police showed up. 8 a.m. the next morning, I called again and was told the police were involved with more important calls. I called the police auditor's office and I said I would like to submit a complaint. They told me I was already submitting a complaint by calling. I said at this moment, when I'm talking to you, a drug exchange is occurring on the sidewalk in front of my house. What can I do? The auditor said, just keep calling the police every 3 or 4 hours. I asked to talk to a police supervisor. No, all supervisors were busy. One would get back to me in 7 to 10 days, not 7 hours, 7 to 10 days. I called the police that day at 11 a.m., 2 p.m., 9 p.m. My neighbors called. The next day I called again at 10 a.m. No response. The only response I got was from Emily Simple within an hour of email, and she showed up on the street. Thank you, Emily. Finally, 40 hours after my first call, the police arrived. Broken grocery carts, furniture, garbage littered the street and sidewalk for almost half a block. The police filled a large pickup with the mess. The criminals walked away. No citations, no arrest. Chief Skinner recently ordered a review of patrol operations regarding non-emergency number calls. That's good, but police operations are not the problem. Eugene police are hamstrung by Eugene policies and laws that favor criminals. I watched as Eugene officers cleaned up trash, disposing quart jars of urine, bags of needles, while the criminals shrugged and walked away. One of them turned back and sarcastically told the officers to have a nice day. Likely at this moment, they're harassing another neighborhood. That's got to be frustrating for the police. These criminals are organized. They know the law. They know Eugene is an easy target. And you've chased the criminals from downtown, from the parks, and now they're in the neighborhoods.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kimberly Gladen, followed by Robert Blake.
Hi, I'm Kimberly Gladen, and I live downtown. I walk around a lot. I don't own a car. Quickest way to get rid of greenhouse gases? Get rid of your cars. I've done without one for 27 years. Every one of these people in this room can do the same. It requires a lifestyle change. You have to wrap your life around not having a car. Consequently, I see a lot downtown. And I appreciate the new planters. More greenage, more planters, it helps. However, downtown needs some cleanup. The alleyway on Broadway next to the OTC has such a heavy urine smell, seems to be the favorite place for everyone to go pee, that walking down the sidewalk on Broadway, I nearly vomited going by the alleyway there because of the smell of urine is so strong. That alley needs a power wash. This has become a health hazard. Nobody should be smelling urine that heavy coming out of an alleyway, and this isn't the first time that this has been like this. It's been like this for a long time. It just keeps getting worse every day. A lot of times there are people who also pee in the alley over by the parking garage on Charnelton between 8th and Broadway. And a lot of times there's people in the alley there blocking the alley, doing drug deals very openly. I mean, downtown has had a history of open drug deals. Downtown has had a history of a lot of bad behavior being tolerated and people peeing. We need not just a state program dealing with travelers and homelessness. We need a national program that deals with it, so other states aren't dumping the homeless into Eugene and into Oregon. So states like New Jersey that have millionaire governors pay for it if they do, so that they're taxed and everyone with the money is taxed equally. That would be the fair thing. Otherwise, Eugene having so many homeless camps, does New Jersey have that many homeless camps per capita as we do? Legal ones? You know, and the camps aren't a solution. It allows people to do drugs out in the neighborhood. We need more drug programs to cover the amount of people who are on drugs in this town. And we need policies that don't condone drug use, because that's something that's gone on in Eugene for a long time. Drug use has been condoned as, oh, well, it's cool, you know, and that's been a detriment to our town. Our social services are overtaxed, and so we need the national program so that everyone in every state pays equally and doesn't just send their homeless to Eugene. Thank you.
Thank you. Robert Blake, followed by Bob Cassidy. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Great. Dear Mayor and City Council members, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to address you this evening regarding the proposal under consideration to all businesses in the Eugene downtown core to prohibit smoking on public rights-of-way adjacent to properties where smoking is currently prohibited. My name is Robert Blake, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Peace Health Sacred Heart Medical Center, and we operate at 2 campuses, University District on Hilliard and Riverbend in Springfield. And I'm here to offer our support on behalf of Peace Health for this ordinance as it relates to the University District campus on Hilliard. As a healthcare organization, we hold that our patients, visitors, caregivers, and providers should be able to receive care and practice in a smoke-free environment. To this end, we have declared our campuses to be smoke-free. We believe that this is wholly consistent with our mission to provide for a healing environment and to support the health and well-being of everyone who comes to our campus. The negative effects of smoking are well documented, and it is not my intent to sway any public opinion about smoking in general. As a registered nurse, it would be my hope that we would all see a reduction in smoking activity and even an eradication of smoking in my lifetime. I lost my father to severe heart disease when he was only 47 years old. His significant smoking caused great harm to him, and I miss him every day. Rather, I want to focus on why we at Peace Health wish to support the ordinance. 1, this is consistent with the mission and work of healthcare to improve the health of all patients and family members we treat at the University District. This is consistent with our desire for our caregivers and providers to live exceptionally healthy lives, free from the effects of smoking or secondhand smoke inhaled on or about the campus of the University District. Further, we believe the message we send by allowing smoking on the public rights-of-way surrounding the hospital sends a very different message than one of healing and health. As an aside, we also consider this ordinance a safety measure to reduce the possibility of fire and harm to the community. We offer a wide variety of support mechanisms for our patients and our caregivers and providers to consider stopping smoking. Your passage of this ordinance helps us send a message of healing to the communities we serve. While the ordinance alone will not end smoking activity, it is a step in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you. Bob Cassidy, followed by our final speaker, George Brown.
Bob Cassidy, 1401 East 27th, Ellen Zelenka's ward. The essential qualities of an auditor, a performance auditor, is independence. They need this if they're going to give impartial advice. The most essential way most critical way that you can ensure this independence of a performance auditor is having them elected. And that's what we were pushing for when we were trying to get this on the ballot. There were comments made a little bit earlier about the bus system. LTD is currently taking information from people how we can improve the bus situation in our community. Our community is really larger than Eugene or Eugene Springfield. It includes a much wider area. And this is an area where the bus service is quite deficient, particularly for people who don't have cars. If they're working in this city and they don't have cars, they need bus service, particularly on the weekend and at more variable times. You might keep that in mind in some way that you are able to help LTD go in that direction. Some time back, we had a survey of working people. 50% of the working people in Springfield were working in Eugene. 72% of the people working out of Veneta, including their mayor, were working in Eugene. We've got a larger community when it comes to transportation that we need to be thinking about. The low-cost housing and the lower-cost rent in these areas are what will help these people. It will help our problem that we have in this city with housing. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, George Brown.
Hi, I'm George Brown. I'm a resident of Emily Semple's Ward 1. No piece of legislation, whether it's a charter amendment or an ordinance, is set in stone. They evolve as society and circumstances change throughout time. Examples would be the U.S. Constitution. It's been amended 27 times. The city of Portland has been growing and improving their auditor's office for over 100 years. Just last year, by a margin of 70 to 30, the voters in Portland approved a new amendment to greatly increase their auditor's independence. And here in Eugene, the Mupty Ordinance has been amended several times, and it still needs work. Do you remember that council was supposed to hold a work session to define workforce housing? That hasn't happened yet, and Councilor Clark is exactly right when he says that it's way past time to do this. Councilor Taylor, former Auditor Gary Blackmer, and Chief Petitioner Bonnie Bettman McCormick rewrote important parts of the Measure 2283 that directly addressed the voters' and the opponents' major concerns. Those changes have already been highlighted by two previous speakers, so I won't repeat them now. Hopefully you've already read them in the various emails and read the revised measure itself. The measure still reflects best practices of audit shops across the country. The idea is you have to start somewhere, and this is a very good place to start. If voters approve, and then after the office is up and running for a couple of years, that's the time to put forward any further amendments that might be needed. And that would happen through time. Everything has to be amended eventually. If voters reject this new improved measure, that would be the time for council to study other remedies, but not now. Please join Councilor Taylor in referring this amended measure to the November ballot. Thank you.
Thank you. And that ends the speaking portion of this. Are there councilors who wish to respond or comment on any of the comments they heard today? Any comments? No? Okay. Thank you all for your taking the time and bringing your passion and your concern to our public issues, and appreciate hearing from you. So we are now going to move on to the consent calendar.
I move to approve the items on the consent calendar.
Second.
All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, that takes care of that. Thank you very much. And now our first item of business, boards and commission appointments. Let's see, do you need a hard copy here?
Yeah, by the time I get to the third one here, and I thank you for that, Mayor, I move to reappoint Sean Londell to the Budget Committee for a 3-year term beginning July 9th, 2018 and ending June 30, 2021.
Second.
Any comments? All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. Congratulations, Sean.
I move to reappoint Scott Nowicki to the Budget Committee for a 3-year term beginning July 9, 2018 and ending June 30, 2021.
Second.
All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, that passes. Congratulations, Scott. Okay, now we're here. Right here.
Forgive me, yes. I move to appoint Ty Pruce Zimmerman to the Budget Committee, for a 3-year term beginning July 9, 2018 and ending June 30, 2021.
Second.
All in favor? Discussion? Oh, Emily, sorry.
I would like to nominate Ryan Moore. Is there a way I do that?
He's next.
Oh, he is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Thank you. I will vote for him.
Not
the answer to your question is to move to to substitute.
Okay. They're all blank in here, so I didn't know
That's what you
who was
You have
next.
to work your way down the,
I'm looking at the blue page. This is blank. Thank you.
okay, so where are we here? We're still on tie, seconded, unless we have a substitute that hasn't,
Are you moving to substitute?
Not if he's next, no. I'm confused now.
No, he's,
Can substitute.
it will not be my intention to nominate him next. Just FYI.
Well, then she can make a
well,
substitute
she can
then.
well, she can make a substitute on the next round then. Okay. Okay, so we're voting on tie, Prue Zimmerman, all in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, congratulations, tie. Okay.
I move to appoint Alicia Voorhees to the Budget Committee for the unexpired, excuse me, I want to read that properly. For the unexpired term beginning July 9, 2018 and ending June 30, 2019.
Second. This puts me in a bad spot, but I move to substitute Ryan Moore. I didn't understand the order we were going into. I would have substituted the first time.
Second.
Okay, you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I do. There was some discussion earlier about how these votes were taken here in this process and that some of us voted twice and some of us voted once. My choice there was based on the fact that we have over time historically had an underrepresentation from some of the wards in the western and northern parts of our city. And so as these were relatively similar amounts of voters, and I did not add my voice to that and the person that I would have chosen, that's why I put Alicia Voorhees forward, because she's Ward 5. But I would like to see other parts of the city represented than what is traditionally done, so.
Claire, you wish to speak to that?
Well, I think I inadvertently caused confusion in the vote tally because I mistakenly voted twice when I should have only voted once. And my vote reflects that I would seek to appoint Ty Prue Zimmerman, who we just voted to appoint, and Ryan Moore. And while I appreciate the geographical distribution issue, Ryan has come recommended by more than one person in the community, I think, to all of us and to me in particular a couple of times. So, that was the reason I voted for him. I voted for Ty because of his work reestablishing the active Bethel neighbors and wanting to give him an opportunity to get more involved in the city's work. So I kind of put us in this position of the 3-3 that shouldn't really be there. But, I support Ryan's application. I think he'd be an excellent addition to the Budget Committee and hope that other councils will agree.
Okay, anyone else want to speak to it? Councilor Evans.
I really think that we do need to have geographical balance. We have an representation of wards 1, 2, and 3 on boards and commissions. Now, that's not because, I think people don't want to be involved. I think that we have had over the years a lot of people who have had a lot of interest from wards 1, 2, and 3, and they have been appointed to most of our boards and commissions in this community. And a lot of people from the other side of town, which I represent and Councilor Clark represents, as well as Councilor Ye represents, have not been as involved. And I think that both candidates are good candidates and deserving candidates. But in this case, I think I would support Alicia Voorhees for geographic balance and balance on the Budget Committee. I think we need to have multiple perspectives here.
Any other comments? Okay, so we are voting now on the substitute. We got a second for the substitution for Ryan. There's a vote to substitute for Ryan Moore. So we are now voting on Ryan Moore as a substitute. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. Opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4. Dang. I'm actually going to support Ryan Moore. Okay. All right. On.
So now we need to vote on.
We need to vote.
Now,
Now you need to vote on Ryan Moore.
now we need to vote on Ryan Moore. All in favor of Ryan Moore? 1, 2, 3, 4. Am I counting that right? 5. Opposed? 1, 2, 3. Okay, so Ryan Moore has it.
Now we have the Civilian Review Board. I move to reappoint Richard Rosetta to the Civilian Review Board for a 3-year term beginning July 9, 2018, ending June 30, 2021.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, that's good.
I move to appoint Lindsay Foltz to the Civilian Review Board for a 3-year term beginning July 9, 2018, and ending June 30, 2021.
Second.
All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, congratulations.
I move to appoint Christopher Hayes to the Civilian Review Board for an unexpired term ending June 30, 2019.
Second.
All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay.
I move to reappoint Sarah
Schmigelski
to the Historic Review Board for a 3-year term beginning July 9, 2018, and ending June 30, 2021.
Second.
All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay.
I move to appoint Daniel Lombardi to the Historic Review Board for a 3-year term beginning July 9, 2018, and ending June 30, 2021.
Second.
All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Great.
I move to appoint Richard Steers to the Historic Review Board for an unexpired term ending June 30, 2020.
Second.
All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay.
Now the Human Rights Commission. I move to reappoint Bonnie Souza to the Human Rights Commission for a 3-year term beginning July 9th, 2018, and ending June 30, 2021.
Second.
All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Pass.
And I'm going to get this right here. I move to appoint Rick Guerrera, thank you very much, to the Human Rights Commission for a 3-year term beginning July 9, 2018, and ending June 30, 2021.
Second.
All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
I move to appoint, I'm not really good with these names.
Serena.
Thank you. Serena Markstrom
Okay.
to the Human Rights Commission for a 3-year term beginning July 9, 2018, and ending June 30, 2021.
Second.
All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay.
I move to appoint Mitzi Frost to a 3-year term beginning, this is Lane Regional Air Protection Agency, to a 3-year term beginning July 9, 2018, and ending June 30, 2021.
Second.
All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
And now the Toxics Board. I move to reappoint Evan Schinken. Did I get that right? An advocacy representative on the Toxics Board for a second 3-year term beginning July 9, 2018, and ending June 30, 2021.
Second.
All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay.
I move to appoint Nicole Patterson, an advocacy representative to the Toxics Board for an unexpired term ending June 30, 2019.
Second.
All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Great.
I'm moving through this list as well here, sorry.
Okay.
Okay. I move to appoint Donald Egan, an industry representative to the Toxics Board for a 3-year term beginning July 9, 2018, and ending June 30, 2021.
Second.
All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay.
And now to the Willamette Citizen Planning Committee. I move to appoint Linda Baker to the Willamette National Area Citizen Planning Committee for a 3-year term beginning July 9th, 2018 and ending June 30th, 2021.
Second.
All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Great.
I move to appoint Heron Bray to the Willamette Natural Area Citizen Planning Committee for a 3-year term beginning July 9th, 2018 and ending June 30, 2021.
Second.
All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay.
I move to appoint Lisa Fragala to the Willamette Natural Area Citizen Planning Committee for a 3-year term beginning July 9th, 2018 and ending June 30, 2021.
Second.
All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay.
I move to appoint Lily Ann Hendricks to the Willamette Natural Area Citizen Planning Committee for a 3-year term beginning July 9, 2018 and ending June 30th, 2021.
Second.
All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
I move to appoint Kimberly Coops to the Willamette Natural Area Citizen Planning Committee for a 3-year term beginning July 9th, 2018 and ending June 30th, 2021.
Second.
All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, that was excellent. Congratulations. Thank you to all of you who submitted applications for these boards and commissions. If you were disappointed this time, keep trying because openings continue to happen. So thank you all very much, and thank you to council for working your way through all of those. And now we are up for a motion from Councilor Taylor. So, Councilor Taylor, I'll let you read your motion.
Move to direct the city manager to prepare for council a resolution referring this amended version of the Citizens Initiative petition, formerly ballot measure 2283, to the November ballot.
Second.
Would you like to speak to it?
I would. Do you want me to read the whole?
No, you can speak to it, and no, not particularly, but.
Not particularly. Okay.
Gotcha, Mike.
The Citizens Committee did research for a full year on the auditor's position, spent over 100 days collecting signatures, collected thousands of signatures, a lot more than needed, and it qualified for the ballot. Unfortunately, in my opinion, council put a competing measure on the ballot. And people had objections to mainly 3 things: salary, the lack of a citizens committee, and residency. The committee, the citizens have have changed all those 3 things, have responded to the objections. So we have an amended version of that ballot measure. What I'm asking is to give the voters a chance to vote for or against it. We don't have to, unlike the citizens who work so hard to put it on the ballot, we don't have to go out and walk the streets and collect thousands of signatures. We can do it. We can give people a chance to vote for an independent auditor. And I urge my colleagues to agree to put this on the ballot. And I would like another turn to speak when you start going around. Thank you.
Got it. Thank you. I'm going to open this with my own comments, which is that I very much appreciate the work that Councilor Taylor has done on this and feel also a deep commitment to the auditor and that an auditor measure should be something that council discusses and that we as a community discuss. My perspective is this is now a new measure and we have not discussed this. And so it does, to some extent, address issues, but we have not, as a council, weighed in. So we have come through a very divisive spring campaign on this, and I would like us to find a path that enables us to come together. I would like us to find a meeting of minds on this and not have another divisive endeavor. So I was quoted in the Sunday paper, and I will say it again, which is that I would champion this conversation. I'm supportive of this endeavor. I would like to work with Councilor Taylor, with the measures of all perspectives on this, and move forward. I am concerned that there is not enough time for council to have a thoughtful deliberation and for the community to have a thoughtful deliberation. So I'm just putting that out there. And as for tonight, I am going to suggest to council that I will open this for a single round for each of you to weigh in on this. If at the end of that round it's apparent that you're ready to vote, we can vote. If it seems that you really would like to have a chance to have, you have more to say and you would like to discuss it more, then I would suggest that a councilor could put forward a motion to postpone, and we will schedule a work session sometime in our next 5 meetings. It would actually require 2 work sessions if we went forward. One to direct the city manager to prepare the measure, and finally to vote on it. So I just put that before you. I have Councilor Clark in the queue. Anybody else? I have Jennifer, Councilor Ye in the queue, Councilor Pryor, Councilor Taylor, Councilor Zelenka, Councilor Emily, okay, wait, I got Councilor Semple, Councilor Syret, and there, I got them all. Okay. All right,
Just
take it
go
away,
right on
Councilor
that
Clark.
Thank you, Mayor. I voted against the idea of putting the alternative auditor measure on the ballot in the spring. It's accurate to say I might have even been a little cranky and mean with my colleagues who did. I certainly didn't mean to, but I'm like that sometimes. I also mentioned at the same time that I was not in favor of the other motion, but I wanted to make sure it had the chance to be heard, and I didn't want it to have competition in that way. And the sole reason for me was the hard work of the citizens who got it ready to put on the ballot. And I felt that the right thing to do was to respect that work and that participation. And so I wanted to defend their right to be heard on that. Whether or not they got a fair hearing on that, it was on the ballot, that's a good debatable question. But my position has never altered, which is that I do not believe that I have been persuaded yet that the value of having an auditor is worth the money spent to do it. As a matter of fact, I believe that having an auditor would give us some conflicts in our form of government that I don't understand how we would resolve. I think that it would put the council in the position of micromanaging the day-to-day administration of the city in a fashion that I don't think is its job, and or it would cause the auditor and the council to be constantly having a debate about policy questions, which I don't believe is the proper role of an auditor. So for me, it's really simple. I've been pretty consistent all the way through. I'll vote against doing this because while it could be useful to the council, I suppose, from time to time, to have some more information, I don't think it's that useful that it's worth the money. Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Ye.
Thank you, Mayor. So before the vote in May, I really felt like there was a lot of community support for some type of auditor. I, in fact, voted for one of the measures. But when the vote came in, only a little over 38,000 people in our city even bothered to vote one way or the other for the auditor, and the majority of them voted no, which really made me step back and think perhaps many of them have the same opinion as Councilor Clark, that this is not something they want, or maybe they just disagreed with some of the facts, some of the parts of it. But really, at this point, while I appreciate what Betty Taylor's trying to do to bring a compromise, we really haven't spoken to a diverse group of folks about what their issues really were. I don't know that we necessarily have a grasp of all of the issues that people had for the reasons that they voted no on these measures. So I, at this time, would not support this, what Betty is bringing forward, but I do agree with the mayor. I think we need to look at it. I think we need to look at it in a timely fashion, but not to rush things. So.
Okay, Councilor Pryor.
Thank you. I actually don't want to spend time of my 3 minutes dwelling on what's already happened in the past. It happened. It was on the ballot. It lost. And so when they said this is a revised, improved version, I said, okay, let's go from here forward. Is this an improved, revised version that is worthy of talking about? So I read it. I read it all the way through as I had read the previous one. And what I want to focus on is the things that have been said are the improvements, what was made better. The local living requirement, I think that's a great thing. That's good. But in the previous measure, there was a place where the budgetary requirements were all put in one place. And it was a big amount, but it was in one place. Instead of having that, instead, the amount that needs to be spent is now spread around all over Section 4. If you look at the third part where it talks about compensation, it says at least, which means that's the minimum amount. It could be more than that. And it could be more than that at the discretion of the auditor, who has authority to appoint, evaluate, promote, and remove employees in the auditor's office and prescribe their duties and compensation. All such employees serve at the pleasure of the city auditor. In section number 5, the city auditor shall have the authority to consult, contract with, or hire independent professionals, but not limited to the list of professionals that are here. You could hire 12 Lords of Leaping, and the city council shall provide sufficient funding for such contracts and services. That's a blank check. That means that the auditor can hire whatever independent professionals as they define independent professionals, and the city is required to pay for them. That's a blank check. That's not a set amount. That's whatever it is I want to hire, you have to pay for. The city auditor has the authority to select all audits and determine and amend audit schedules. That means you turn in an audit schedule to the city council. Here's what I plan to do, and you can change it anytime you want to, and for whatever reason. A second area was the addition of a citizen advisory committee. It's not a review committee and it's not an oversight committee. It's an advisory committee. That means it gives advice. We look at stuff and we make recommendations. We give you advice. You don't have to follow it. You don't have to do anything with it. And the auditor shall have the authority to create the committee. It doesn't mean you have to create the committee. That means the auditor can create the committee if the auditor feels like it. If the auditor doesn't feel like it, the auditor doesn't have to create the advisory committee. The auditor simply has the authority to create, is not required to create. So the whole advisory committee function is, it's a red herring. It doesn't have oversight. It doesn't have regulatory authority. It just is here to give you advice if you want to form it. So I don't think this is an improvement. I think it's actually worse than the original proposal.
Okay, Councilor Taylor.
Thank you. We're not voting on whether this should pass or not tonight. All I'm asking is, and all the committee wants, the citizens, is to give the public a chance to vote on it. We don't need to discuss whether it's a good measure or not. We don't need to, it's not our measure. It's the citizens' measure, and we're giving the public a chance. If we vote for this, we're giving the public a chance to vote on whether they want it or not, without competition from another measure. If you don't want it, if you don't want it, the time to campaign against it, if you're against it, is after it gets on the ballot. But all we're asking now is give the voters a chance. And I don't see any point in council discussing whether it's a good measure or not. It has satisfied the objections that people had, but we could leave it up to the public to decide whether they want to vote. People may work for or against it as they choose. Thank you.
Councilor Zelenka.
Yeah, I like the idea of an auditor to improve performance, get at efficiencies, and save money, even though I don't believe that there's nearly as much savings to be had as people want to believe that there is. Probably actually be a net cost to the city, especially given the way this is written. I think there's some good ideas in this proposal, but the details of how it gets set up and implemented are very important. And one of the biggest problems I had with the original proposal was that it was developed behind closed doors by a small group of people without public input, and so was this motion. And again, it wasn't inclusive. It didn't have a public process. We need a larger, inclusive public process, like the mayor said. And I agree with the mayor that it's too rushed. We just saw this a couple of days ago, and there's still a lot of problems with it. The salary formula is still way too confusing. The budget, I think, is poorly crafted, and I agree. I kind of read it, it's a blank check. The auditor, I don't think, it used to be that the auditor didn't even have to live anywhere in Oregon. It could be anywhere in the country. Now, at least it's in Lane County, but I believe the auditor should live in Eugene, as does the senior staff and the counselors and the city manager. The election would end up being in May, which is a low turnout, as Jennifer said. I think it should be in November.
It's November.
The motion to put it on, approve it would be in November. To elect the auditor would be in May. So it'd be an election with low turnout. I thought when I talked to people about this, many people were very unclear what an auditor actually does. And we're not aware that we do an enormous amount of financial audits in the city, and or that they were confused that the auditor doesn't set policy. And I believe that auditor, and I don't believe that auditor would have had any impact on the city hall decision. All those decisions were policy decisions. They weren't performance decisions, and they weren't financial performance decisions. And if you believe the city hall would have turned out differently with an auditor, I believe you don't understand what an auditor does. And the Citizen Advisory Committee, as proposed, is still optional instead of required, and it has no authority and no appropriate checks and balances. And this proposal still sets up this third branch of government with subpoena power that is not set up to work with the council, but as it at odds with the council, and it's the council that has the only authority to implement. And I agree with Councilor Clark that it's going to put the council in a position of micromanaging the city operations, which isn't where we should be. So I'm interested in a proposal that actually work and inclusive process that comes up with a proposal.
Okay, Councilor Semple.
Thank you. I think this is pretty interesting in that we rushed pretty fast to get the alternative measure on the ballot last time. And now there's not enough time to talk about it. But Betty's suggesting, we've gotten a lot of email to put this ballot on the measure so people can decide. I think that both of the previous measures were flawed. And because of that, many people may have decided to vote against each of them because they were flawed, but not because they didn't want an auditor. I think you get a bigger turnout in November than in May, so this would be a fairer test. I think it's interesting that we're getting into the nitty-gritty of what would be good or bad about this proposal. We didn't really do it last time. I'm embarrassed the way the process went, and I think this is the right thing to do, to give it a chance to honor the citizens' work. I really think we should put this on. If it doesn't pass, back to the drawing board. But what I don't see is who would be hurt by us putting it back on the ballot.
Councilor Syret.
Thank you. Well, while this revised version addresses a number of issues raised by critics of the elected auditor measure, it doesn't address all of mine, and I didn't necessarily line up in exactly the same way with some of those critics. But more importantly, I believe this would fail if we put it forward on the ballot in November. I think it would be much more beneficial to wait for another opportunity to place it on the November ballot in 2020, which will be a presidential election and have a huge turnout. I appreciate the work of both Citizen Accountability and Citizens for Sensible Oversight's work on this topic. I think there's definitely an appetite in the community to have an auditor function, but I think presenting the voters with a revised measure this close to an election when they already defeated two will not be a winning decision. I would be supportive of working on this draft over the next 2 years and take the measure out to the voters that has a measure that's been informed by the recent debate and further input from citizens who have not had a chance to get involved. So I do believe that if it was done right, this council could refer a measure to the voters that would gain voter support and pass. And I think that should be the goal.
Councilor Evans.
Thanks, Mayor. I won't belabor the point and add on to what I think the majority of my colleagues have said here. I will say this. I agree with Claire. You know, people voted. They defeated both measures. And I think that if we're going to consider an auditor function, that we need to have the time to deliberate, to be able to do our due diligence in terms of vetting the proposal. Like I said, we only got this a few days ago. And something of this magnitude really takes more time for us as a council to consider all of the issues that are raised in this revised measure. So I will not support this.
Okay, I have announced that I'm only doing one round here. If we need to go back and have another conversation, we can, but we're just doing one round here. It is just taking the poll.
I need to make.
My sense is that we're ready for a vote. Can I get a yes?
I need to make a correction.
Okay.
This is not a council measure. It is a citizen's measure. And so we don't need to take a lot of time to do it. We are not doing it. I'm just asking you to give the citizens a chance to vote on what they worked so hard to prepare. And they did gather the signatures. They made a few amendments, which council apparently wanted. It is not our measure. And there's no reason for us to, if you're not for it, why would you be afraid to let people vote for it, against it, or against it?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We do have a motion on the table. It has been seconded, so I'm going to put that on the table. All in favor of moving to direct the city manager to prepare for council a resolution referring this amended version? All in favor?
Forgive me.
Yeah, it's on the table, right?
Just point of order.
Yes.
This is coming back to us?
No, it would only come back
The way it
to
was
us if you asked for more time.
It said prepare for council, so sorry.
Oh, well, if
Yeah.
you would be directing the city manager to do that work and bring that back, and it would have to come back for a final.
So if the motion that is on the table and has been seconded passes, then there will be another meeting with the resolution in front of you that actually does the referring to the ballot. That is the way the city refers items to the ballot, is by resolution. So this motion would direct the city manager to bring that resolution back to you.
So it is back to us before it goes out to the
Yes.
Only if you vote.
If this motion passes, correct.
Only if you vote to do it today.
Within the,
Okay, are we comfortable with a vote today on this? Okay, all in favor of the motion? 2, opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so it fails. Thank you very much. Thank you for your work on this. Betty, thank you for all of you. And we go on to our next action, which is ordinance regarding Autzen Stadium. Manager?
Thank you, Mayor. The University of Oregon requested a code change to allow alcohol consumption for 6 hours in advance of game kickoff to align with its proposed expansion of parking hours. No matter the kickoff time, the changes will not permit consumption of alcohol prior to 7 a.m. If approved, the UO intends to monitor the impact of the change at weekly athletic department meetings, which include representatives from EPD, as well as conduct an annual evaluation following each football season.
Okay, thank you. Put a motion out?
I move to adopt Council Bill, oops, that's not the right, oh, yes it is.
Yes, it is.
I move to adopt Council Bill 5191, an ordinance concerning Autzen Stadium and amending Section 4.190 of Eugene Code.
Second.
All right, discussion. Counselor Clark, Counselor Ye.
Thank you, Mayor. I've been attending football games at the University of Oregon, for quite a few more years than I should probably say it out loud. Long time. And a lot of the celebration that attends that ritual from people out of town, especially. This is a community event that draws an awful lot of people, both from within our community and from without. And one of the things I've seen over the years is the change in number of people who are coming here from other places to be a part of this. Anybody who's done it knows that you don't drive on I-5 South, 3-4 hours before game time unless you like sitting still on a highway, on a freeway. I think we actually, by extending this opportunity, create more of a destination event atmosphere here and lighten the traffic we see on I-5, the traffic in our community, the public safety opportunities that are present from people with the opportunity to come down, stay the night in Eugene and make a day of it. So I think that on balance, based on what I've heard from public safety professionals, this creates both a safer atmosphere and one that involves more and more economic development in our community, and it seems like a good idea to me.
Okay. Counselor Ye.
Thank you. I want to thank all the residents who have taken the opportunity to contact me and email me about the impacts of living near Autzen, and also Matt Roberts from the U of O, who took the time to sit down with those residents and walk around the neighborhood. I had a lot of positive feedback about his time that he spent with them. But most of those residents still have a lot of concerns about this change. Chief Carmichael said that increasing the number of hours would not increase drinking because people would drink the same amount just over a longer period of time. And I think that's probably true for many responsible drinkers. But it's not the responsible drinkers that I think we are worried about in this scenario. It's not responsible fans who cause problems at the stadium. They don't park in blocked streets and driveways. They don't throw trash in yards as they're leaving to go home from the game. They don't give underage people alcohol, and they don't drink and drive because they're responsible. So it's the irresponsible fans, unfortunately, that we have to plan for. And from the information that Chief Carmichael gave us, he sent us some studies, and the Lane County Health Department sent me some studies, so I have like 1 million studies I've been looking at. It shows that the ones from Chief Carmichael showed that the folks who tailgate tend to engage in riskier drinking, and that underage folks specifically tailgate because they don't have access to alcohol in other ways that they can't purchase because they don't have, a license, and that those underage students drink more and become more intoxicated. So we have a lot of issues that increasing the number of hours of drinking can result in causing issues in our neighborhood. So all that together, I think the neighbors and I have identified 3 areas that we see that there are problems associated with drinking at Autzen. And one is the parking issue that I've already talked about. Second is something that Matt Roberts actually said the U of O is looking at, and that's entry and re-entry policy at the games. And the third is underage drinking. And so I have made this is the first time I did this, and I appreciate Catherine for helping me do it. So I have an amendment to the motion. So I'm going to read it. I think you all have a copy. Do I read it? Okay,
please.
Thank you. So I'm going to move to amend Council Bill 5191 to add a new Section 3 that states, Section 1 of this ordinance shall sunset and be repealed effective July 1st, 2019, unless extended or made permanent by future council actions. If the U of O intends to request that council extend or make permanent this ordinance, the U of O must submit to council by April 1st, 2019 the following: information regarding tailgate, traffic, and alcohol-related arrests during the 2018 football season. 2, coordinated neighborhood parking plan between the U of O and the city to ensure emergency vehicle access and mitigation of negative impacts to affected areas. And 3, an Autzen Stadium entry re-entry policy. And 4, an underage drinking enforcement policy and plan for tailgating before, during, and after the U of O football games. So this amendment allows them to go ahead and add the 2 additional hours for this upcoming season, but it requires them to look at some issues that they say they've been looking at for some time and really help to deal with some issues that many neighbors close to Autzen have been dealing with for a long time without much assistance.
Second.
Second, all right. So discussion about this amendment, Councilor Syrett, and then Councilor Clark, and Councilor Zelenka. Okay.
So thank you, Councilor Ye, for bringing this amendment. It actually helps me support the ordinance. I have some concerns about extending the tailgating time, both mainly for the alcohol-related impacts. So I like everything in your amendment, except I wonder if item number 3, an Autzen Stadium entry and reentry policy, could be a little more specific, because they could come up with an entry and reentry policy that has nothing to do with the issues that we're concerned about. So I don't know if this is too specific, but I would suggest adding language there, an Autzen Stadium entry and reentry policy that addresses the issue of overconsumption of alcohol by spectators.
Mm-hmm. That sounds good.
Yeah,
can accept that?
I would accept that.
As a friendly, okay, good.
Great, thank you.
Excellent. Councilor Clark.
I was just going to say that a lot of times amendments at the council table come with intention to either alter something in its entirety, in its meaning, or to kind of hijack the conversation. This one's really constructive. I think it's intentioned in all the best ways. I think it supports the neighbor's desire and doesn't overburden, at least as near as I can see it, the university by giving them a year to come back with this stuff and to be granting this year. So I'm tempted to want to support it because it's made in such a reasonable manner.
Councilor Zelenka.
First of all, I'd like to thank Matt Roberts for his outreach to the neighborhoods. I thought that was an appropriate thing to do. They didn't necessarily agree with everything you said, but thank you for doing that. I agree that the problems are from a select few and not the many good fans that go to football games. And it's always a couple of bad apples that spoil the party, to mix your metaphors. And I was apprehensive as well of adding hours for those types of people to get more drunk and do more bad behavior. So I really like the motion that Councilor Ye has crafted here, and I can support the 3 studies and plans that are called for it, and then this extension of hours would sunset unless all 3 of these things came back to the council within a year. I think they're good ideas. And then finally, I guess another clarifying question, Jennifer. The number 1 just says information regarding tailgating, traffic, alcohol-related arrests during the 2018 football season. What did you have in mind by that? Maybe you could add some more detail and
Right, so they've already agreed that they're going to be collecting information, is my understanding. So I just wanted to make sure that that's part of this package, that we're getting that information back, whether it's from UVO, PD, or EPD. I mean, do you want to be more specific?
Well, I was thinking what you would want is comparative data. If we're going to extend the 2 hours, then you'd want to look at what happened with the extension compared to historic before. So
during the 2018 football season in comparison to previous years?
And maybe you take that as a friendly.
Sure.
Great.
Yeah, I can take that as a
That's
friendly.
accepted, all right. Okay,
Thanks.
all right. All right, Councilor Clark wants another round. Does anyone else who hasn't had a say? Okay, take it away, Councilor Clark.
Thank you, Mayor. The reading of this first sentence, I'm not sure, maybe it does adequately reflect your intent. For me, there's a part of that that's a little challenging in that it says it's automatically done after the first year.
Yes.
Unless a council takes an affirmative action. Whereas I might suggest that yes, it would sunset automatically, but then be automatically scheduled for review once the university submits these things. So in other words, it's not just, some counselor's responsible for moving, but that the manager will bring back for council review the university's application for this a year from now.
It says unless extended or made permanent by future
So
council action.
typically, when something is set for sunset, that's the language you see when we sunset ordinances. But if we had a request from the U of O, so theoretically, the year could go not as they had hoped or planned, and they wouldn't want it extended. So you wouldn't then have it be brought in front of you. But if the U of O says we want this either extended another year or permanently put in place, that would bring it back in front of you.
I apologize. My point was that this language reflects that unless a council takes action,
Well,
what
the
you're
council has to
suggesting,
take action, yes.
unless a council takes action to review, is the way it's written
It kind
to
of
extend.
overlaps, though. See, they have to submit by April, and it doesn't actually sunset till July, so.
So let me just do this instead. The legislative intent here is that if the university requests its extension, it will automatically come back to council for review. Is that correct? Yes.
Right, what we'll do is we'll bring it back with whatever information they've provided. It may be exactly what you've asked, it may not be, and then the council will have a choice at that point whether to extend it or not extend it based on the information you're provided.
But it has an automatic feature this next year.
Right, unless
Thank
they,
you.
as
Yeah.
Catherine mentioned, specifically say, we don't want to bring it back, so.
Right. Okay, that's what I wanted to ensure.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Any other comments or questions? So we're ready to vote on this new amendment with two friendlies attached to it. I'm hoping that's clear in everyone's head. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, that passes. So that's great. Thank you very much for your work on that. That's
Now the main
excellent.
motion
Now
is
the main motion is amended, and
Now we must vote on the amended motion.
5191.
right. Okay. All in favor of the amended motion?
Discussion for?
Wait, do you need more discussion?
But I like to be asked.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I
Hold those
apologize
ahead. I might
for
have something to
racing
say.
ahead. Thank you for slowing me down. Okay. So now we're voting on the actual amendment,
Motion.
amended motion. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Excellent. So now we're clear. It's done. Thank you very much for that work. And we are ready for our final topic, smoking
Voting no
ordinance.
on the last, no, sorry, go ahead.
You're ready.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Becky DeWitt, City Manager's Office. I'm here to speak with you tonight about the smoke-free and tobacco-free workplaces and public spaces. I also have Christy Inskip from Lane County Public Health available to answer any technical questions that you have on this topic. I did not grab the...
Is this advocacy or?
We're here to present options that council may consider regarding expanding smoke-free areas in Eugene. In addition to supporting the public health of our community, these options come as a result of the interest of some of our public and private partners who have tobacco-free policies. So tonight we'll review some statistics related to tobacco use, discuss some current and emerging considerations, review options for council to consider, and answer any questions you have on this topic. Was it off? Okay. I was not hired for my technical capabilities. All right. Tobacco use continues to be the leading preventable cause of death, disease, and disability in the United States. In Lane County alone, 2 people die every day from tobacco use, and 1 in 4 of all deaths in the U.S. are due to tobacco use. It's important to note that the burden of negative tobacco-related impacts falls the hardest on those with lower incomes, certain racial and ethnic communities, rural residents, and those experiencing homelessness, mental health, and substance use disorders. All of these groups are more likely to be exposed to tobacco use and tobacco marketing and promotion. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Community Prevention Services Task Force recommends creating smoke-free policies on the basis of strong scientific evidence that these policies reduce exposure to secondhand smoke, reduce the prevalence of tobacco use, increase the number of users who quit, reduce the initiation of tobacco use among youth, and reduce tobacco-related death and disability. We know that beyond the incredible toll tobacco takes on the lives of the people in our community, it also has a significant economic impact. Tobacco use costs Oregonians nearly $3 billion a year in healthcare costs and lost productivity. In Lane County, costs are nearly $260 million every year, equaling about $1,800 per household. Eugene makes up 44% of this number. Many local institutions have successfully created tobacco and smoke-free properties that protect and promote the health of their employees, students, customers, and visitors. This also supports broader community health, supporting the efforts of those trying to quit smoking, reduces the risk of fire from discarded lit smoking materials, and reduces the environmental impact and cost of the most littered object, cigarette butts, to our waterways and wildlife. We've heard from these partners that their policies are working well, and that those policies could be supported and strengthened by removing what have become unintentional smoking areas on the public rights-of-way next to their properties. You may have seen some of these areas. Essentially, these are public sidewalks and sometimes even traffic medians, which are the public right-of-way, so they are not covered by a tobacco-free policy by the property owner. As a result, they've become areas where people congregate when smoking, creating situations that can be unsafe for people who are smoking and unhealthy for community members who are forced to walk through clouds of secondhand smoke.
God, do it anyway.
As you may know, this has become a significant issue of concern in high pedestrian use areas, especially surrounding our public transit center in the heart of downtown. LTD, as well as the city, receive a number of complaints every year from people who are negatively impacted by needing to walk through smoke to access the bus or EMX, or just to get from the station across the street to the library or LCC. The University of Oregon, LTD, and Peace Health have all requested the city consider options that would help support their policies and the public's health by allowing them to opt in to creating smoking, tobacco-free rights-of-way areas next to their property. We've also heard from a number of smaller businesses and organizations who are interested in this option. Today, we're providing council with an ordinance for consideration that includes two key elements: an opt-in portion of the ordinance that would allow property owners of tobacco or smoke-free properties to request that their adjacent public rights-of-way also be covered by the city's smoke-free ordinance. This opt-in option can be applied citywide. This is an example of what the opt-in would look like near two of our partners, Peace Health and the University of Oregon. Essentially, the smoke-free area extends beyond their property to the sidewalks, alleys, medians, and streets in front of these properties. Due to the concentration of pedestrian traffic downtown, we've also included language that would allow for the downtown core to be designated as an opt-out area. This means that if the ordinance is adopted, the downtown core would automatically become smoke-free unless a property owner chooses to opt out. If the property owner opts out, then both their property and the public right-of-way in front of their property defaults to the current smoke-free guidelines. The primary reason for the focus on downtown are because downtown has the highest concentration of pedestrians outside of the U of O. There's also a large concentration of vulnerable populations in the downtown area, many of whom access services downtown. Many of these vulnerable populations accessing services are children, seniors, and people with chronic diseases and health conditions that make them especially vulnerable to the effects of secondhand smoke and vapor. Several communities in Oregon have implemented smoke-free downtowns, including Ashland, Cottage Grove, Cave Junction, and most recently McMinnville. Other communities with such ordinances include Boulder and Fort Collins, Colorado, Boise, Idaho, Syracuse, New York, and Burlington, Vermont. There's also a real property provision that allows for the public right-of-way by city-owned property to become smoke-free. For example, currently smoking is prohibited inside the city-owned atrium building and within 25 feet of entry of any entrance or air intake. The proposed amendments outlined in this ordinance would make all of the atrium building and its surrounding property, including public sidewalks, alleys, smoke-free. Both the opt-in and downtown core opt-out options have been noticed for public hearing on July 16th. If council chooses to move this item forward to the public hearing, the ordinance is written in a way that would allow the following options at the time you are scheduled for action on July 23rd. You could choose to adopt the ordinance as written. You could choose to amend the ordinance to include only a portion of the ordinance, for example, the opt-in citywide portion, or you could choose to not adopt the ordinance. If you choose to adopt the ordinance, we would develop an implementation plan that allows for education and communication. This could include signage as well as other efforts to communicate and look for voluntary compliance. This is just an example of what the signage could look like. It's similar to our smoke-free parks signage, which focuses on positive messaging, simple, clear, and easy to read text, use of no smoking, vaping, tobacco symbol, and the Oregon Tobacco Quit line contact information. Here are just a few examples of resources we could include to support community members who would like to quit smoking. Gallup poll research has shown that 9 out of 10 smokers would like to quit. Smoke-free areas can help support this goal as well as prevent the adoption of smoking by our youth. Finally, just to recap, you don't have to make a decision tonight regarding all of the provisions of the ordinance. This is simply an opportunity for you to decide if you'd like to move this item to a public hearing, understanding that amendments to the ordinance can be made at the time of action. Thank you for your time on this topic, and we'll now open it up for questions and discussion.
Okay, thank you very much. I have Councilor Syret, Councilor Semple, Councilor Taylor. Okay, Councilor Evans. Okay, take it away, Councilor Syret.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation and for the draft ordinance. So for the opt-in function for properties, they would have to have formally declared their properties or their sites to be smoke-free. Is that the idea?
Correct, and then they would also request to opt in.
And then based on that, they could say, we'd like to opt in for the right-of-way that
is correct.
Is adjacent. Okay. Well, I definitely support moving forward with this ordinance. I believe that providing a smoke-free downtown with the options for individual businesses to opt out for their own patrons will benefit both those who desire to walk through downtown without being subject to clouds of smoke and those who believe their business model relies on having a place for their patrons to smoke. So we're not banning a legal substance from being used, but we're also creating an environment in which smoking is discouraged, which helps people quit and helps those of us who don't smoke enjoy a more pleasant downtown. And I really appreciate the opt-in piece as well for campuses outside of downtown. I think, off the top of our head, we can think we are providing relief for both the U of O and for Peace Health, and I appreciate Mr. Blake coming down to share public comment with us about the University District Hospital. I'm a little bit familiar with that location, and they've got an alley, which they have not requested to have vacated, that runs right through their property, as well as being surrounded by sidewalks that abut the lobby and the emergency department. So as a smoke-free campus, that makes it very difficult for them to maintain the healthy environment that they're trying to promote on that campus. So I hope my fellow councilors will support moving this to a public hearing. I think it's a smart approach to a contentious issue for our downtown, and I really appreciate the thoughtfulness put into it.
Councilor Semple.
Thank you. I don't like cigarettes. I quit a really long time ago. I don't like walking in the clouds of smoke. I don't like treating downtown different from the rest of the city. Are downtown people more valuable? They should have less smoke? either cigarettes are bad for you or they're not. If they're bad for you by the university, they're bad for you downtown. Why are we making it different? Of course, I've already heard outrage from people, business owners downtown who want their patrons to be able to smoke. So I'm wondering if we can't change it so that we treat everybody the same and either make the whole city smoke-free with the option to opt out, or make it an option to opt in across the whole city. So many people downtown want their businesses in the sidewalks to be smoke-free, so they can choose to be smoke-free and opt in. I think that that's more straightforward and fairer to everybody.
What I would just say is that obviously that will be an option for your consideration as you move forward with the discussion.
Councilor Taylor.
So are we going back to the smoking ban, which we decided not to do a few years ago?
What this is at that particular time, what we heard from some counselors is not then, but would be wanting to consider it into the future. And so we're bringing it back as a reconsideration with some additional options, some of which Councilor Simple just articulated around opt-in.
So some people, one business can say it's okay, I want people to be able to smoke in front of my business.
I think it depends on what the council chooses to eventually do. So it could be to that. It could be that.
So we can get some really smoky spots. I thought we had decided not to have a smoking ban downtown. I don't, because of the smokers are going to go somewhere, and they'll go to the neighborhoods perhaps if they can't do it downtown. And what you're proposing, I know you said it's not definite, but is that it all be smoke-free except for people who say they want people to be able to smoke. Is that correct?
The ordinance as written today has that.
Thank you.
Councilor Evans.
You know, I'll still stay for the record. I'm in favor of total prohibition, but I think that this is an elegant compromise, the opt-in, opt-out option. I know that there are bars and restaurants that whose patrons smoke as matter of course, and in the downtown area, an opt-out option. I think while it's not the best solution, it is a move in the right direction. I will tell you, note again, I am the only living member of this generation and previous generations of my family, mostly because of the effects of tobacco, smoking. And all left to carry on the Evans name are my children. Everybody else passed away before they were 60. This happens to a whole lot of people. As the CEO of Peace Health has just given testimony to. I lost my father when I was 4. This is a public health hazard. And so I'm not totally unreasonable. If people want to smoke and they want to vape or whatever they want to do, that's their right to do it. But I think that we need to act in a conspicuous manner to protect the vast majority of public health. When I was coming up, almost everybody smoked. You couldn't walk into a house, get into a car, go out on the street, and there were cigarettes, cigars, pipes everywhere. And as people have learned over the years, this is not a good practice. And most of the people that I know who do smoke don't want to smoke. They would like to quit. So whatever we can do to move this city in a positive direction in terms of ending this, I'm in favor of. But I think that this is the elegant compromise. So I'll support this.
Okay. Councillor Clark.
I'm gonna pass.
Okay. Councillor Zelenka.
Yeah, I'll just do everything that Councillor Evans said and then add my own personal story is that my mother had lung cancer and my brother has lung cancer and they're both heavy smokers. So I'm basically where Greg is, and I think this is a good compromise since we're not going towards where we want to go.
Okay. Are we ready for a vote? We haven't put this motion on the table yet.
No, we have not yet. I move to direct the city manager to move forward with the July 16, 2018 public hearing on an ordinance concerning the prohibition of smoking on public right-of-way adjacent to opted-in properties, the prohibition of smoking within the downtown core and allowing for properties to opt out, and amending section 6.230 of the Eugene Code 1971.
Second.
All right. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Opposed? 1, 2, 3. So that passes. Thank you very much. Thank you for that good work, and we are adjourned.